Natural born fighters. The topic of this discussion today is going to be based upon the intricate moments that lie between a supreme athlete and an elite fighter, an instinctive person, someone who was born to actually do what they were put on earth to do. These words were marked by a great James Toney, one of the top middleweights in boxing history, who ventured as far up as heavyweight, beating a John Ruiz, but having a title stripped away because of a doping conflict in his urine after the fight. But needless to say, James Toney was one of the greatest to ever lace him up, and he always quoted, "I was born to fight." So the topic of this one is based upon the natural born fighter. Some of the guys who are chosen to do things are chosen for one reason and one reason only. And that reason is because they were put directly on the right path. Because whether it's their father, whether it's an older sibling, whether it's a mentor, saw this gene inside of that person straight out of the gate. So what do you think this is? Who do you think I'm talking about? The supreme athlete? Or do you think I'm talking about the natural born pugilist fighter? Well, I'm going to go down the list today. And first and foremost, let me introduce myself. I'm Eric Bradley, aka The Fight Doctor. And I thank you guys for watching, and you're watching Master Boxing. And best believe this is where we break the fight world down round by round. And today we're going to cover Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, the natural born fighters. I took some notes because I didn't want to miss anything on this, because all of these points are very intricate and mostly important, because a lot of people overlook these things when you get caught into a heated argument. I won't go there, but at the end of the day, what you want to know, I will feed your egos today. So first and foremost, I'm going to cover the split-second decision is the difference between the winner and loser. Have you ever been taught something, whether it's boxing or dancing? When you were learning it, the minute you thought you had it in your mind and the music started or you heard the bell ring, you froze up. Whether it's sparring or you're just in front of a lot of people and that moment hits you. Eminem said it best. You got to lose yourself in the moment. You own it. But if you don't, it's not even a split second. It's a divided fraction of a second. A split, I call it half of a second. But a divided fraction of a second can be 1/100th of a second. Meaning those little small numbers that go behind the 1 second mark. Ali said it best. I hit Sonny Liston with an anchor punch, and it's 4/100th of a second. That's super fast. It's quicker than a blink. A person can release a punch and throw that. So you think about that. That split second that you're trying to set a game plan up and tell your guy to, when he throws the right hand, you slip outside, throw the right hand over the top, or the left hand or the left hook over the top. Yeah, you hear that playing in your head, but the minute you hear that bell, boom, the natural fighter responds instantly because he's already one step ahead of that 1 second. So he's already making the move. They did a segment on sports science with the reaction of a guy, and believe me, I'm non-biased when it comes down to this because I bring the facts to the table, so you guys are left to weigh it in with total non-bias. So they calculated the reason why Floyd Mayweather, that is, was consistently beating guys to the punch. Well, he has an operational function in the neurological section of in the mind, the way his mind operates, responds, reacts. That function of his mind operates, I think, is 1/9 of a second quicker than the typical person, which is usually the guys that are in there thinking because they are athletic, that they are supreme when it comes to intelligence and those neurological responses, which is your brain and posit science. athletic mind is the phrase that I use on a regular basis. So think about this. If you are on a track and you're running in the Olympics and they say, go, that split second that the guy takes off, but not ahead of anybody, but his muscle response takes off, he's already a stride ahead of you. And if you guys run the same pace, that means he's going to beat you just by a hair. That's the same way that you can look at this thing in boxing. It's a fraction of a moment. A fraction of a moment. So your game plan may have worked if you were working with someone that's on a different level. And that was a very valid point. So if you want to, you can stop the video and then clip on later and see the other six. So go 3 minutes into the video and start later, because you need to see and hear all of these points, because they're supremely valid and they will solidify your argument. No matter who you're pulling for, you have to take these things into consideration. And furthermore, I only bring to you what you can use, like I said, whether it's an argument or you just want to up your intelligence and your mindset and your boxing cachet. Natural instinctive ability versus just an athlete. I remember James Toney fought Iran Barkley, and Iran Barkley had dominated and destroyed Thomas Hitman Hearns. You know, Hitman Hearns and Iran Barkley are two athletes. Well, when you put an athlete in the ring with someone who's as instinctive as a James Toney, chances are you're going to lose, because he has one thing up on you. He's athletic, but he doesn't depend on that. The guy's instinct, his intuition. He's nervous. Guys who are usually instinctive have quick twitch nerve response. So they usually don't get in car wrecks because they're so aware. They have a heightened awareness in there that goes with their persona. So when you see this guy get in the ring, where people were saying this is a little bit too much to bite off than he can chew, James Toney just dismantles him, because Iran Barkley is an athlete. James Toney was a supreme mental warfare in the ring, along with guys like Bernard Hopkins and yours truly, Floyd Mayweather. These things are important in your equation of who's going to win the fight. I continuously give two different angles. So, like I said, this is a viewpoint of something that's really, really important in your equation. People consistently say, well, you know, it's going to come down to the corners sometimes, and sometimes it does. But when a supreme being, when they're in that ring, one thing you're going to note from them is very rarely does the corner impact the way he fights, because it's instinct. He makes adjustments to what he's seeing, and the corner does not see it that way because they're in a different angle. And if you've never worked the corner before, believe me, when you watch a fight, and especially a competitive fight, one thing you know, and all coaches will tell you this, it does not look the same from the corner, and it's a lot harder. I've had some of the top guys in the game scream over to me for me to talk to the guy who was in the ring, and this is while I was being baptized by fire, learning the importance of knowing what you're doing in that ring, in that corner as a coach. Man, it is not the same thing as you guys are watching on TV. Trust and believe. You can click all the YouTube channels you want. You can pull out all the HBO, DVD, or the archives you got. But I tell you what, when you get in that corner, it looks totally different. So it also is going to look different inside of the ring when the person's facing you, not from a side view. That person does not have those type ocular capabilities. His eyes are not a GoPro camera. They don't just see like a fish bubble covering 180 degrees. This is directly in front of you. So when a guy who has good instinct is in a ring, he can make those adjustments, and the corner is hard for them to see. They're usually seeing exactly what they see on TV. But the difference is in the corner it's more intense and the fight is more even. The punches, the speed, it's hard to deteriorate. It's hard to differentiate which one is faster, which one's hitting harder sometimes. But for the most part, on the average, it's difficult. So you have to have a lot of experience once you take that coach's jacket and put it on your body and call your man a chief second. That's important. So you take that with you. Those things that are happening in the corner, like I said, the instinctive fighter finds his way to win regardless. He hardly uses the corner because he makes the adjustments in that ring. Now, the reason and the difference between the guy who doesn't use the corner as much and the guy who does, he needs it, because if not, he'll lose the fight. And the reason why he'll lose the fight is because he lost fights before, but one guy hasn't. These things are important in your argument, regardless if you're a Pacquiao fan or a Pacquiao fanboy or a Mayweather fan or a Mayweather fanboy. It's important for you to know this, because you can separate bias and emotion and you can lay down the facts, and these are the facts. A guy who's fought that many fights and not lost, it's never just the corner. It has everything to do with the guy. Joe Calzaghe, people can talk junk about him, but he always found a way to win. It wasn't the corner. Rocky Marciano, undefeated. He always found a way to win. It wasn't the corner. The corner has a lot to do with keeping him mentally somewhere in the game. Physically, you know, the swelling down and stuff of that nature. But when it comes down to being in there and extracting that science, that's the guy, and that's the way his brain operates. So we're going to go into the next segment. You can be neutralized where you've never been neutralized before. When a coach makes a game plan, that's why game plans are so overrated, especially in the championship rounds. When you see a guy and you can get him and you can neutralize him, see, guys don't plan for that most of the time. Coaches, they ramp out all this stuff they're going to do. I've heard and I've listened to coaches, and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. If you go back to when Floyd Mayweather Sr. said he was going to destroy Manny Pacquiao when he had Ricky Hatton, I knew that case to be different. But why didn't he? Because sometimes coaches get caught up and they are truly believing the Kool-Aid that they're making tastes like chicken. If that analogy sinks in. Because basically they start to believe their own crap. And crap it is. Because you don't know where that fighter is mentally. But when you have a pugilist, he goes out there and he executes whatever the game plan being inside of his head. What you've told him, he's going to extract from that. He's going to pull from that like in a grocery bag, in a grocery cart. He's going to take out of the bag what he wants to eat. And he's going to use it when it's time. And that's why some of these fighters are so unique and hard to beat, like Bernard Hopkins, Keith Thurman. He has a repertoire and he has an entree of options when he's in the ring, and he can pull from those things, and it makes all the difference in the world. Coaches, listen to me now. Whether it's Coach Robert Garcia, whether it's Freddie Roach, whether it's Floyd Mayweather Sr., whether it's Coach Virgil Hunter, Coach Barry Hunter, it doesn't matter. They all had a game plan. The best coach will always be ready to allow the fighter to take control in that ring, where it would offer the basis of what he feels is comfortable and what will work. Because you have to trust. You have to have a trust factor within one of the other. Both of you guys have to be on the same page. You have to trust in the fighter, and he has to communicate in that ring. So that's why I'm breaking these points down to you guys, because these are valid points in a fight of the magnitude that we're about to watch on May 2nd. You best and believe that this and these things will come to fruition, because if you try to make a guy not believe that he will be neutralized, Let me, I wrote a few names down of guys who went into a fight thinking they were going to dominate and the fight was going to just be over because of they wanted to be that way. First and foremost, Ali George Foreman. George Foreman had no idea that his punches could be neutralized. But Ali had all the faith and belief in the world. Plus, he's an instinctive fighter. He thinks before the other guy's natural responses. The brain is called positive science. It's positive. It's brain fitness. These guys operate on a different level. And they respond and react on a different speed. Bernard Hopkins. Of course, Bernard's name there is there with many other fighters. But when he fought Felix Trinidad, I had a guy sitting in front of me betting his life that Bernard Hopkins was going to get crushed by Felix Trinidad. Little did he know that I understand the way Bernard Hopkins thinks, because I think the exact same way. I can take anything that you have and I can make you stick it in your pocket and then rape you blind. Trust and believe. Bernard Hopkins, that recipe is born with it. It's not a plan from the corner. You know, that education just enhances the knowledge and experience and the way that he can execute it. So stay with me here. James Toney, Iran Barkley, I spoke to that fight. And it was just a few fights that I wanted to really depict and let you guys know that a fighter, when he's in a position to really neutralize a guy, he has the ability to shut whatever his best weapons are and take them away from him and make them fight barefoot and naked. And you know we use the phrase because that's where you throw them in the dungeon. These things are some of the most important issues and topics to discuss when it comes down to this fight. Add these to your argument. Share this post. Make sure you understand one thing. There's some guys that are athletic enough to do this. The Sugar Shane Mosleys of the world. The guys like the Andre Bertos of the world. These talents are undeniable, but they all fall short when they meet the supreme natural being. So as we piggyback off of that, you hear the coaches say, well, and this is in camp, well, I'm going to have my fighter do this, and then I'm going to have my fighter do this. But you never hear them admit that in the championship rounds, it's all about who's the most natural fighter. Those game plans go out the window because you can't make adjustments to something that you don't know is not going to work for you when you've been neutralized. So the fighter who has the best natural ability will come out the victor. This is just what it is in the sport of boxing. They call me the fight doctor. And I thank you guys for watching. Because you're watching Master Boxing. And this is where we break the fight world down, baby. Round by round. Do your friends a favor. Share the post. May 2nd. It's on and popping. So be sure to stay tuned to the next episode where we cover how sparring is aligned in camp. Many people are finding out things about sparring through social media, but I'll break down exactly how sparring is set up to enhance the fighter, not to make them look good in sparring, but making them look good in the fight. This is a very important post for you guys to take note to. So enjoy this post and be sure to tune in this weekend on the Fight Show. I'm out. Peace.